Meet Erik. He is an ambitious project manager who wears his ability to multitask like a badge of honor, often replying to emails during high-stakes Zoom meetings. Erik believes he is performing two or more complex tasks simultaneously, but neuroscience reveals that he is actually engaging in rapid task switching. Every time Erik toggles between his report and a notification, he forces his brain to deactivate one mental set and load another, a process that is metabolically expensive and inherently inefficient. This kinetic attention provides Erik with a subjective sense of being busy and productive, but it masks an objective decline in performance. For Erik, this constant mental repositioning is not a superpower. It is a hidden drain on his cognitive energy and focus. The data regarding Erik's work habits is alarming. First, research from the American Psychological Association indicates that task switching can cost Erik up to 40% of his productive time because of the load it places on his working memory. Second, Dr. Gloria Mark's research shows that the average attention span on any one screen has plummeted from 2.5 minutes in 2004 to just 47 seconds today. Finally, even short interruptions of less than 3 seconds can double Erik's rate of sequence errors on multi-step tasks. For Erik, this means that every time he just checks a text, he is not just losing a few seconds, he is fracturing his ability to maintain deep analytical thought for the rest of his hour. Erik's brain has an architectural limit known as the attentional bottleneck, located in the prefrontal cortex, PFC. This region acts as Erik's internal CEO, responsible for goal setting and managing transitions, but it can only process one attention-rich task at a time. When Erik attempts to multitask, his PFC becomes overloaded, triggering the release of cortisol, a stress hormone that can reach peak levels within minutes. High cortisol levels are specifically associated with impaired working memory and decision-making, particularly in hard tasks. Over time, chronic media multitasking is even linked to a reduction in gray matter volume in the anterior cingulate cortex, the area Erik needs for error monitoring and emotional control. Erik is now performing a live workflow adjustment to save his cognitive health. Step 1. Erik identifies his peak focus rhythm, usually mid-morning, and schedules a 90-minute deep work block for his most complex project. Step 2. He creates a distraction-free zone by turning off all notifications and closing irrelevant tabs, recognizing that the mere presence of his phone acts as an attention tax. Step 3. If interrupted, Erik uses a ready-to-resume plan, taking 30 seconds to write down exactly where he left off. This simple act provides Erik with cognitive closure, allowing his brain to let go of the previous task and minimizing the mental residue that would otherwise muddy his performance on the next one. The results of Erik's new protocol are transformative. Organizations that have implemented flow-based management to reduce multitasking see a median productivity improvement of 38% and finish projects significantly faster. For Erik personally, he will experience reduced mental fatigue and an improved ability to inhibit irrelevant responses. By avoiding bad multitasking, Erik's brain works more efficiently, requiring fewer neural resources to complete the same amount of work. Most importantly, Erik achieves cognitive fidelity, meaning his work gains the analytical depth and flexible memory retention that only a sustained, focused mind can provide. He no longer ends his day wired but tired, but instead feels a sense of true completion and mastery. We have explored how multitasking is actually rapid switching, but there is an even more insidious effect called attention residue. Think of Erik's brain like a paintbrush. If he dips it in blue paint and then immediately in yellow without cleaning it properly, he ends up with a muddy brown mess. When Erik jumps from an unfinished task to a meeting, some of his attention remains stuck on the original activity, acting as a lingering cognitive trace that impairs his performance. This residue leads to unclear thinking and increased irritability as his day wears on. To keep his brain brush clean, Erik must learn to finish tasks or use deliberate transition buffers to achieve the cognitive disengagement necessary for his next goal. Erik often underestimates the impact of a 5-second distraction, but every switch carries a measurable switch cost. Each transition requires Eric's brain to load new cognitive rules and inhibit the old ones, a process that is neither seamless nor instantaneous. Research shows that younger adults switch tasks approximately 27 times per hour, while older adults average 17 switches. This high frequency of switching results in an incomplete process of information unloading, forcing Erik to keep a higher amount of information in mind than is required. These repeated reorientations accumulate, leading to longer task completion times and leaving Erik with fewer mental resources for error checking. If Erik tries to learn a new skill while he is distracted, he is physically changing how his brain stores that information. Focused learning primarily engages the hippocampus, which supports the acquisition of flexible, declarative knowledge Erik can apply to new situations. However, under dual task or distracted conditions, the brain shifts its reliance to the striatum, the seat of habit learning. This shift means that while Erik might still know the task, his understanding will be rigid and context-specific. He will be able to perform the habit but will struggle to explain the rationale or transfer the skill when the environment changes. Why can't Erik just stop checking his Slack? It's because his ancient brain treats information like calories. This is based on the optimal foraging theory, which explains how animals decide when to switch between food patches to maximize energy gain. In Erik's high-tech environment, information patches are accessible with zero distance, fueling compulsive device checking. Every new notification triggers Erik's dopamine reward system, creating a sense of busyness that he mistakes for competence. This evolutionary mismatch creates chronic stress because Erik's biology is attempting to run primitive foraging software on a relentless stream of digital data. The term brain rot was named Word of the Year in 2024 to describe the diminishing capacity to concentrate due to pervasive technology use. For Erik, this manifests as mental fatigue, which decreases his ability to inhibit impulsive responses and concentrate on his work. This state of fatigue is not just annoying, it is dangerous, as it has been linked to occupational errors and even car accidents. When Erik is mentally fatigued, he fails to achieve the deep work state required for high-level innovation and complex problem-solving. His cognitive capacity becomes so fragmented that he begins to interrupt himself even when no external distractions are present. To understand the gravity of Erik's habit, look at the 2023 near collision at JFK Airport. The NTSB found that an American Airlines crew made a wrong turn and crossed an active runway because they were distracted by other tasks during taxiing. The pilot later admitted he couldn't figure out why he missed the turn, a classic symptom of prospective memory error caused by interleaving tasks. Similarly, the ground controller failed to notice the error because he was engaged in a lower priority task that involved looking down. These incidents prove that multitasking doesn't just lower quality, it removes the safety buffers we rely on in medicine, aviation, and engineering. Paradoxically, the stress of multitasking can lead to cognitive tunneling, a state where Erik fixates on one task to the exclusion of all others. This was famously seen in the crash of Eastern Airlines Flight 401, where the pilots became so engrossed in a faulty display light that they failed to notice the autopilot had turned off, leading to a fatal descent. For Erik, this means that making one error draws his attention toward that errored task but away from other concurrent priorities, potentially causing an error cascade. If Erik spends 10 minutes obsessing over a minor typo in an email, he may lose his top-down control needed to manage a much more important project deadline. Erik is now adopting digital minimalism to restore his cognitive fidelity. This is not about quitting technology, it's about being intentional with its use. Erik now restricts the window of time when he checks electronic communications, aiming for a communication half-hour rather than checking 77 times a day. He uses anti-distraction apps to block notifications that introduce anxieties and tangential thoughts during his work blocks. By placing physical distance between himself and his smartphone, Erik reduces the attention drain that occurs even when the device is powered off. This digital hygiene provides his brain with the calm environment it needs to begin the process of memory consolidation. Nicholas Carr, in The Shallows, argues that the internet is fundamentally changing the way Erik thinks. The digital environment promotes cursory reading and hurried thinking, which remirs Eric's brain to want information in short, disjointed bursts. This kinetic attention is at odds with the linear thought process required to follow a complex argument through a book or a technical report. As Eric spends more time on the net, he is essentially training his brain to be more reactive to stimuli and less capable of sustained focus. We are seeing a shift where deep reading may become the province of only a small reading class, while the rest of society loses the habit of depth. Eric's working memory is his mental sketchpad, a limited capacity system used for temporary storage and processing. Chronic multitasking clutters this sketchpad with noise from irrelevant information that Eric failed to filter out. This results in a lower discriminability, meaning Eric holds fewer or less precise representations of the tasks he is working on. This lack of precision at the working memory stage propagates forward, leading to weaker long-term memory traces. Essentially, if Eric can't hold the information clearly in his mind right now, he is much less likely to retrieve it accurately even a few minutes later. Eric's habit doesn't just affect his output, it affects his humanity. Making ethical decisions requires paying attention to both the people involved and the situation, a process that is compromised by chronic multitasking. When Eric checks his phone during a conversation, he is less connected and empathetic toward his partner, as the mere presence of a phone diminishes the extent of understanding. Furthermore, digital platforms often exploit positive emotions, giving Eric less experience with the complex negative emotions required for thoughtful social interaction. In a culture of responsiveness, Eric is trading away his thoughtfulness for speed, potentially leading to social and professional failure. Eric needs to start these focused habits now because his brain's resilience is not permanent. While young animals show a remarkable ability to regrow dendritic trees after stress is discontinued, this recovery is blunted by middle age and gone in aged animals. Older adults already experience a gradual sustained elevation in glucocorticoids, and chronic stress can exacerbate this, leading to permanent cognitive impairment. Carrying the APOE epsilon 4 allele may further increase Eric's vulnerability to the negative effects of stress on his memory as he gets older. To protect his future self, Erik must treat his attention as a limited resource that needs preservation today. If Erik can convince his entire team to stop multitasking, the results will be massive. Realization study of 45 organizations found that reducing the number of open projects by 25 to 50% can double task completion rates. One pharmaceutical group was able to complete 83% more projects just by ensuring teams had a full kit of prerequisites before starting, which eliminated the need for task switching. When organizations stop peanut butter spreading their employees' attention, they identify real bottlenecks and solve the right problems. In the knowledge economy, focused work is the ultimate competitive advantage. Erik's transformation is nearly complete. He has learned that the brain is a muscle that can be trained for longer stretches of time. By choosing tantric learning, the practice of rebuilding attentional capacity through disciplined, intellectually demanding tasks, Erik is building cultural capital in a fragmented world. He no longer feels the fear of missing out because he understands that responsiveness is a trade-off against depth. Erik has stopped running sophisticated software on ancient hardware and has started working in alignment with his biological architecture. He is finally focused, finally productive, and finally present. Erik found his focus, and you can too. If you found this deep dive into the science of multitasking helpful, please like this video to help others find it. Share this with your favorite juggler who needs to hear about the 40% productivity loss. And don't forget to subscribe to our channel for more evidence-based strategies on brain health, digital wellness, and mastering your own attention superpower. Join Erik and our growing community as we learn to navigate this high-tech world with focused, resilient minds. Let's protect our most valuable resource together. We'll see you in the next video.